How many times have you asked your kids to do something just for them to not follow through and you are on the brink of losing it? My name is Caroline Fitzsimmons. I'm an occupational therapist and I work with kids with ADHD as well as their families and supporting them. Today, we're going to talk about executive function, what these skills are, and how you can build them through use, not just knowledge. So, what are executive function skills? These are the brain's command center that helps us to plan, organize, remember, and adapt to challenges so that we can follow through to get things done in our daily life. Um, it primarily takes place in the front of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. And while this is a whole brain network, this is where it is primarily housed. And because this is the last part of the brain to develop, it also takes the longest to develop these skills. And actually, our prefrontal lobe doesn't fully develop until age mid 20s. So when we think of our kids who are neurodivergent with a typically a 3 year or a 30% delay already, we can see why this can be a struggle for them. So I'm going to give you four steps today on how to work on these skills and help them to gain independence so you're not having to repeat yourself over and over again um, and helping them to follow through. So the first one is repeated opportunities helps to integrate these skills. So give them opportunities to practice. We need to think of learning and new skills as a window of learning. So when the task is too easy, there's no growth. When the task is too hard, there's overwhelm, meltdown, avoidance, and shutdown. And either extremes can lead to learned helplessness. If we as parents decide this is not worth the fight or the power struggle, we might throw in the towel and say, fine, I'll just put your backpack up for you, or I'll just wash those dishes, or I'll help finish up this homework for you, whatever that might look like. But when we think about this window as just enough stretch or the just right challenge, then there's now opportunity for growth. But also, this is where the learning zone happens. They're challenged, but they're also supported. This is called scaffolding. So kids need to feel safe enough to try and then challenged enough to grow. So if the task is way too overwhelming and they don't feel safe to even try, there's going to be resistance or avoidance. Um, but if it seems challenging and you're there to support and encourage and even help to start the task, then they may have the support they need to follow through. So what this might look like in real life is instead of saying, we're late, I'm just going to pack your backpack up for you. You might try, I'll help you think through what needs to go in. Or instead of saying, you forgot again, you might try saying, looks like we need to adjust our system here. So, something that you may also reiterate, talk a lot about just having the right mindset and also the right language to use is um, things like, this feels hard because your brain is practicing, or what support would help. This helps your child to think through instead of you thinking for them. And this, again, helps them to build those executive function skills of future thinking, cognitive flexibility, problem solving. Something else you might say is you don't have to do it alone, but you do need to be a part of it. This encourages accountability, a collaboration, and this supports your child through another executive function skill, such as emotional regulation. Anytime, any human, when we have something perceived that is very hard, our initial tendency might be to avoid and resist because human nature is to survive through energy conservation. So when you think of it that way, you might be able to be more objective in first setting the right expectations for your kids, but also helping to build accountability by supporting them through it. So just remember that this window is of learning is important because small discomfort builds frustration tolerance, problem solving, independence, and confidence, but it's necessary. The second thing to know is practicing executive function skills is important to work on through daily systems, so through real life moments. So things like for us, working memory during the morning routine of trying to get out the door to school. This is the most stressful for most people, for most families, and so working memory tends to kind of go out the go out the window here. So try to offload those executive function skills under that time of stress so that you can move the needle and have a smoother routine. So for us, that looks like while we're eating breakfast, going through our checklist on a whiteboard on the fridge and saying, these are the three things we need to do to get out the door. It might look like breakfast, brush your teeth, put on your shoes. Or it might be a checklist of the things to gather for school. It might be a backpack, your water bottle, homework folder. So having this visual offloads the working memory because now you have something concrete to look at. Um, Something you might also practice is each morning after you review it, you might say, repeat back to me what you need, or repeat back the plan. And so this also works on working memory, but it also builds accountability and making sure that your child heard your instructions or heard what needs to be done. Uh, so organization is another executive function skills. You might practice using a Sunday reset routine. So every Sunday for us, that looks like emptying out backpacks and putting in what needs to go for that week. It might be having a landing or a launching pad. So every morning or right next to the door for us, we have a basket of things that need to go out every morning with us. So that could be your keys, um, uh, to-do list or backpack, whatever it is, but that's our launching pad. So again, you can offload the working memory. It's right there. You automatically grab it and go. And then same with coming home. There's a landing pad for your keys, wallet, whatever else needs to be taken off and put down. But that way you know where it is. You don't have to waste time looking for it. And then another skill is attention. So focusing and sustaining effort. Work in short focus work blocks. So something that my kids hate doing and I hate doing also is cleaning their rooms. And so our short work block for us is we're just going to spend 5 minutes to clean up as much as we can. And you would be surprised what you can do in 5 minutes. So my boys share a room. So the two of them and me, in 5 minutes, we can get like half of the room picked up. Or you might even gamify it and say, let's pick up every red thing or every piece of clothing. Let's see who gets the most, in our baskets. So those are ways you can help them through with cleaning, organizing, but also making it fun and keeping a connection there. Cognitive flexibility is another executive function skills. So this is when you're adjusting when plans change. Practice using alternate routes to get to a school or another location. Practice following a recipe together and maybe substituting an item that you're out of. Have a family game night. That's one of the best ways to practice cognitive flexibility. My son one time was so upset because he didn't have the card he needed for Uno. So he jumped up, got a piece of paper, and drew the card he needed. And to me, that was cognitive flexibility, creativity, and problem solving, even if it was not the exact way the rules are meant to be played there. So cognitive flexibility, other ways you can talk through it with them is using declarative language or curiosity. Well, that didn't work. What's another option? Or what can we keep and what can we change about this? So the goal here is not perfection, but it is to notice, adjust, and then repeat. Number three, having family touch points and then modeling accountability. This is so important. So again, that consistent daily touch point for us, morning, 2 minutes. What needs to be done today? How are we going to do it? After school, what needs attention tonight? Are there anything that's going to get in the way? Or what do you need before that can happen? And then the evening reset. We call this closing the loop at bedtime. What worked today? What needs to be adjusted tomorrow? Lastly, number four, parent modeling. This one's powerful and often overlooked. I call this living out loud. So narrate your own experience, narrate your own executive function. Almost any moment can be a teaching moment. There was one time where my boys and we were heading to our friend's birthday party. When we got there were no cars there, and I looked down at the invitation, and it was the next day. So I had totally gotten the date mixed up. I was bracing myself for meltdowns by both of my boys, and instead I modeled out loud that I made a mistake. And I just said, oh, guys, I goofed up. I should have reviewed or looked at the invitation a couple more times to make sure I had the right date. Whew, I'm going to sit here, take a breather, gather my thoughts, and we're going to figure this out together. And within a couple minutes, we just problem solved together. I just said, guys, what are a couple things we can do now that our plans are changing? And here are the two things we came up with. We can knock on the door anyway and see how they're doing and if they want a visit. Or we can go find a swim. We can go to the park and use a splash pad there, whatever. And so we decided to knock on the door, and it actually worked out beautifully. They were open to a play date, a visit, and so we came in and had a great time still. So you're modeling adaptability, cognitive flexibility, and um, problem solving here. And then also we're assessing and debriefing for next time. Next time, I will look at the invitation a couple more times. So that's one way, one example of narrating our own experience. You know, we're all going to make mistakes, even as adults, but resilience, adaptability is all about reflecting on what do I have control of in the moment and how can I change this for next time. So I hope these concepts work for you. And just remember that this is progress over perfection. It does take time. And over time, you will see these skills start to integrate and your kids will learn and become more independent. But it really does take intentionality and consistency. So I hope this helps.